second to last one. This is Elias. Elias Polo says, hello, my name is Elias. I've been studying 3D for almost 2 years. I want to be an environment or prop artist for either video games or movies. I tried focusing on stylized projects and hand-painted style, but I do not know if I must improve my textures or modeling skills first. Let's take a look. Okay, this kind of stuff, I've mentioned this before. It's not the kind of stuff that you really want to have on your portfolio unless it's like really freaking good. And this tend to be exercises that we use to learn the tools. This is Substance Designer, of course. We have this dragon scales. Again, little nitpicking thing right here, Elias. More often than not, scales are going to be going down, right? Like, it's not very often that we see scales going up, so you might want to like just rotate this whole thing around, because more often than not, scales are going to be going down because they're supposed to be protection, right? So they go down and they create these layers to protect ourselves from like hits or whatever. If you do this, it's very easy to something to get wedged in between them and then for them to fall off. This look more like, I don't know, like palm trees or something like that. So be careful there. This one I like. It's fun. It's simple on the modeling side of things, but it's a fun enemy. Like, I could definitely see it on a more whimsical, interesting game. And you solve the general stuff like nicely. Beginner Dragon Trainer Kitchen. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this one, to be honest. And then we have this thing right here, which is hand painted. You're trying to go for the hand painted style. Again, not great. The reason why it's not great, it's because it's very simple, right? I don't even see a face. I would expect to see a face, like a jack-o'-lantern or something. It's supposed to be this creepy character. I understand what you're going for, right? Like this ribcage and these bones. But this is again where you need to be very mindful about how we simplify certain elements. So the vertebrae, that's not the amount of vertebrae that we normally have. The rib cage, that's not the amount of ribs that we normally have. We're missing the clavicles, which are very important. We're missing the shoulder blades on the back, which are very important as well. So stylization comes from understanding the real world, guys. It's a very common thing. So if we see this thing right here, so if I have my rib cage here, this is the real world rib cage, and I want to create a stylized version of this rib cage, I need to follow and figure out what is the most important thing about this ribcage. And of course, one of the most important things is going to be the clavicles, right? So this is a sternum. I'm also going to have like a sternum here, something like that. I'm very sketchy when I'm like creating stuff. So I'm going to have my clavicles and my other clavicle right here. Okay. And then I'm like, okay, I don't want to have 12 rib cages because 12 ribs because 12 ribs are way too much, right? Like it's going to make it way too realistic. So how can I simplify them? Well, I need to understand, I need to study and say like, hey, did you know that we have 7 rib cages or ribs that are considered to be true ribs, meaning that each rib will connect to the sternum. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I believe this is the 7th one. So all of those are considered to be true ribs because you can follow the connection straight into the element. The next one, they're called floating ribs because they combine the connection point to the sternum. And the last 2 ones are the floating ribs. So let's simplify. Instead of having all of those many ribs, let's say, okay, we're going to have 1, right? Of course, we're going to have the spine on the back. We're going to have 2, like that. And then we're going to have 3 true ribs. They're going to connect here. And then we're going to have 2 fake ribs connecting here. And then I'm going to have 1 floating rib at the very bottom, right? Again, I know this looks super sketchy, but you can imagine how eventually when we clean this up, similar to what we did with the dagger, we're simplifying the complex shapes into an easy shape right here while still keeping true to the information that we have. And you can see them doing this. Actually, to Ivan test. Let me see if he's got one, because we did something like this. Yes, okay. So this is one of my first students. His name is Ivan. He's a really good character artist. Oh, it's not here. Oh man, that's a shame. We did one. There's another one of my friends. He's a graphic designer, but we worked on this one right here. There we go. So this is a game that we worked on several years ago. Unfortunately, it didn't launch. I did a lot of these pieces. Actually, I should add them to my portfolio. Like I did that zombie right there. They did some of these other assets. There we go. So this is Skeleton Warrior right here. So let me see if there's another view of that one. No. Or this horse right here, right? So what we did on this particular project is we were trying to tonkify or simplify the anatomy of all of these assets in a way that was a lot easier to in a way that was a lot easier to utilize for the game, right? So in the case of that skeleton where Ivan did this, the skeleton warrior here, he did that. So you can see the sternum, 1 rib cage, 2 rib cage, 3 rib cage, 4th floating ribs, and that's it. A very basic simplification. This was supposed to be like a top-down game. So my whole point with all of this, Elias, is when we're trying to do something like this, we need to figure out what is the real stuff, and then we need to find the abstraction of those elements to make it really look cool, okay? There's a story in the making in this one. The way the vines start taking over the Ricket is magical. Yeah, like the vines, like the idea is fine, right? Like the idea, the pumpkin, the bones, the vines, like that's amazing. That's a really cool idea. But the execution on the design of the elements, that's what we need to work on to really sort of like push it to the next level, okay? I would definitely make the head way bigger as well, the pumpkin, so that we can add some eyes and some like expressions or something to make it a lot more interesting. So you were asking about, I think in your question, Elias, you were asking whether you should focus on environments or prop artists for either video games or movies. I think your stuff definitely feels a lot more stylized, which is great. So focus on that, but let's really explore the colors. Again, I know you guys don't like when I promote some of the stuff sometimes, but this is why I make these courses, right? To teach you all of the fundamentals that you might need for your stuff. So for instance here, the first thing that I notice is that we are missing, or we don't have any contrast on the values of your elements. So if you take a look at this red right here, and you take a look at this red right here, and you take a look at this red right here, we have all of the dark colors, right? Look at where this is in terms of values. Remember, values goes from up to bottom part, and then this one right here, and then this one right here. So yes, we have a nice gradient here, but we don't have the high points. So the high points here, we can go really high, and we can start incorporating a little bit of that like intense effect, right? And then we can, for instance, go here. I'm going to saturate this a little bit more, and we can incorporate a little bit more saturation on the colors without really changing the values too much. And that's a good way to bring more visual interest to this whole thing. Same on this one right here, right? So if we want to make this thing look like actual glass, one of the things that we need is we need to add like a very strong highlight so that it shows that this is a shiny element. See how by adding that element right there, that little extra color, it starts like pushing this thing into another level. Same for like the gold here. So that's all about material definition, right? How we define the materials based on the kind of like values and elements that we're using for this particular elements. And there are some, I don't want to say tricks, right? But there are some strategies or elements that we can use to really push these guys to a higher point and make them pop out a lot more. So that's what we need right here. We need to really push some of these elements up in terms of values so that we can actually see what's going on, because right now colors are too dark, and I'm guessing that you probably just use like a very basic like gradient approach with those, which is fine, but again, we gotta be careful there.